Hello, it's Chris. I was just working on a zipper placket and I thought I'd show you one of the different techniques that I've been using. And it's similar to when you do a waistband sort of placket. So really neat and quick and easy actually. So what we do is we start off with one really long piece. So instead of having two placket pieces, you're just using one, and you sort of have this, the length of what you want your zipper placket to finish, plus then allow about another inch because we'll have some fold over and that there to do. So I start off, I fold over, get the zipper placket on the wrong side, mark a sort of a half an inch, or I want about a half an inch, not quite actually on this one because now that I've seen my finished one on this side, I'm just going to make, that's a 1 inch mark I did, and I'm actually going to change that and I'll just do a 3/4 inch mark. I just want to be able to fold over this raw edge on here, and I'm just going to take this down. So I'm only doing this to one end. I'm not doing it to the other end. Not yet. We'll do that when we've sort of attached the zipper. So I'm going to fold this end over now. Just remove that paper off the double-sided tape. I'm going to fold this over to that new line that I marked. So that's given us a nice neat fold over edge there. Now what I want to do is I want to find my halfway point. So I'm going to take this over. On this end, I want to allow, so roughly, make sure I've got enough to fold over. I might even allow myself a little bit more there. That should be good. Got that there. I'm going to fold that there. Ooh, have I got enough? Fingers crossed. Okay, so there, let's make a little halfway point. I'm just using a friction pen, so that's my little halfway point. I tend to like to do that on both sides, so I know it's nice and straight, just in case I need that marking for any reasons, just a habit. Here we go. Double check, make sure I've got enough fold over. Just folding that end over. Should have plenty. Making sure I can get that there. Okay. Now what we need to do is I can probably separate these. I'm just going to mark, before I do that, where this needs to begin and end. So that needs to end there, just so I've got a little guide. Try and get these edges to line up. It's not always the easiest thing to do. So we want right sides together. I'm going to place this edge here to there, and I can just base this in place, or I can use double-sided tape too. Just want to make sure I'm getting it right. I was just free-handing it, but now that I've already got this side done, I might do some double-sided tape just to be on the safe side. I'll start my tape up this end. Just placing that inside that edge because I don't want my tape to be seen later on. I was just working on this zipper and I thought, oh, I might just turn the camera on. If I had a thought before, I could have done it beforehand. Now I'll show you a look too. I've just hand stitched this in place. So I've just sort of did a couple of stitches this way, and then I've couple of stitches over those teeth. That just keeps that nice and flat and smooth. And it's easy to line up with the other edge when I'm doing that as well. I'll do another video at another time, and I'll go through the whole step if it's something that you would like to see. Just going to remove this double-sided tape. Again there, I'm lining up these edges here. So I want these end pieces here to line up perfectly. Got my little mark there. As close as I can. Adhere a little bit down. So when this folds over, I want to know that those ends there are going to match. So now I can just keep going because it's looking pretty good. Just placing this down on the edge of the tape. So my zip's under there, and I'm lining up the raw edge of this vinyl with the raw edge there of that zipper tape. I like to keep it as nice and even as I can, not quite lined up. Okay, looking good. What I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to baste down this side here. There's that centre mark, so if I fold that over, that centre mark is going to be right up against those teeth there, and then I'll eventually come around and I'll wrap this around this side here. I can just do my double-sided tape now and just do it all in one go. Just place it all there. But I thought, why not? Let's just keep going the way we've been going. So I'm going to start up this end here. I'm going to lock this in place. Go over there. And I'm just going to stitch down. Just going along sort of near that edge there. Little back stitch there just to secure that so it doesn't move. Even with my basting stitches, I like to keep it straight, so I'll follow sort of like an edge on my presser foot or on my foot of my needle, something there just to help me keep that nice and straight. Trying to keep my hands out of the road. Oh, got distracted then, making sure that I had my hands out of the road there for you. So we don't want to go over the edge of the tape. Let me just cut this off. We'll unpick that bit. This is what I would do. So, because yeah, we don't want to go over the edge of that tape. Just take those little stitches out. This stitch line won't be seen here, but this zip tape will be seen. So, just bring this back. It's good that you get to see a boo-boo. Wasn't concentrating on what I was doing. I was too busy making sure you could see. Here we go. That's done. That was my basting stitch done there. And I'll just clip these threads here while I'm at it. The good thing too with how I've hand stitched this zipper tape down, it just doesn't move. It's got no way of moving because it's secured. Stitches this way and stitches over there, so it's going to stay in place no matter what I do. Now, so when we fold this over, we want that butted up right up against those teeth. So that there, keeping those teeth lined up there. So I want that, see if you can see, these teeth I want lined up right up against that fold. And then that's the result that I got from this previous one. That's from the right side. My little teeth, they're in this section here. And then I've just stitched that down. That's from the wrong side. So it's nice and neat and you don't have this big overhang bit up the top there. I'll bring this back around. that in there. So I can use double-sided tape, or I can just keep sewing. I'll do the double-sided tape because then I'll show you, like, if you're not, experienced at this, or you like to know that everything's secure, you can use little clips. Like, got my little clips here, so you could clip this in place if you wanted to, just to make sure nothing moves. Just keep all that together. I'll do the little clips. How about that? We don't need the tape, but double-sided tape is another option. Clip down. Again, there, making sure these raw edges here are all nice and neat and lined up. To the end here. I'm going to come back a bit because I've got to fold over that edge. So we want this edge to fold over and be just inside. So when I finish this edge here, I want this fold here to be just inside there. So I can make a little mark now if I like, just as a little guide. Grab a pen. I'm going to do a little mark there. I'll grab that double-sided tape now, making sure you're in view. Put a little bit of tape on that end. Press that down. Sometimes I find if it's hard to get the paper backing off some double-sided tape, just get that paper, fold it back a little crease, and then it usually comes off pretty easy. So now, I'm going to bring this over here so you can see what I'm doing. Before I secure and press this down, I'm going to just line up that edge. So it's just inside that fold of the one underneath. So this one here, making sure my hands aren't in the road. This one here, there's that fold there, and I want it just inside there. Keep that pretty straight. And that should be good. Now I can come back here, double check, looks pretty good. So I can just add a little clip. Doesn't matter if these don't line up on the back here, makes no difference. It's all on the inside, and if they're staggered like that, it's actually better because it's like you've braided your seam allowances, so you don't have one big hump where everything sort of is at the same height together. Now I just want to make sure when I fold this back, does it look like it's going to line up? I reckon it's going to be pretty good. I reckon. Check it from this side. Fold that back. Does that look like that's going to line up? I reckon it looks pretty good. I'd made a mark there before, so we should be fine. Just going to line them up. Put that little clip back on. Now we can start from up on this end just to make sure that that's all in there right. But I think I'm going to be a daredevil and I'm going to start from this end. I'm going to use my other stitches as a guide. Make sure that's over. This is where your double-sided tape does come in handy because you've got no chance of anything shifting on you or stretching, because some materials are prone to stretching. Actually, I will start up on my teeth here because I'm going to get up nice and close to my zipper teeth. Lift my foot up. Now my teeth, they're in here, and this little presser foot, I've got a little mini tiny toe on, and I'm going to run it up nice and close to those teeth. Up there, you can feel them. You can do another little row down here just to sort of stagger, which is what I had done that under this one, just to make sure that now that I've done one side and I was happy with it, I should be right. Making sure that bottom layer is pulled up nice and snug on those teeth coming out here. And keep them there. I don't cut those excess teeth off yet until I'm finished, because they're sort of like a little anchor that I can hold on to. I'm going to do the back stitch, forward and the back. Doubling up those stitches makes a really nice little secure little knot. And my little toe here is sort of just coming up and running along the side of those teeth underneath this time, and release those clips as we go along. Using my foot as a guide for where those teeth are, I should get a really nice neat finish up against those zipper teeth. Not one foot clips, they annoy me. I'm going to get them out of the road. Making sure that little end is just sitting underneath there. Yep, and keep going. Now make sure if he has stretched at all, now's my chance to adjust. Let's see how we go. He might have stretched a little bit. Or maybe not. There we go. Now I've got to make sure that my thread doesn't come over this edge, because otherwise you'll see the stitches. They'll be exposed on that zipper tape. Looking good. Looking good, I reckon. That over here. And then a back stitch. I like to do about 3 or 4 stitches, so make sure that's in there nice and secure. So that's that all done. Looks like I've got a pretty nice neat straight line. Just going to clip these threads here. I don't even need to have to clip that if I don't want to. And all I have to do, fold this over, grab those little teeth and give him a little push. Yes, hopefully you can see what I'm doing there. That's looking pretty good. Fold this edge over. When I stitch these down, I'll sort of pull that in and then I'll line up these edges. Looks like we've got a nice finish here on this edge. And then we can zip up the placket. I still want to because I'm going to make sure that my edges are nice and even. Press this back. Because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be top stitching these together. And then when I come up this way and do the top stitching for this section, I'm actually going to stitch on this side of those teeth. There's no way those teeth can't come out. Like, you could pull as hard as you want, but it's just not going to come out. If you didn't get it quite as even as that, but you can see I've got that. This can't come down any further. Inside, everything is sitting in there really nice and snug. Hopefully you can see that. I'll just bring that back out again. So that's that little corner. There's no bulk here. I don't have to trim anything, nothing to do. Just pull that, come through, and just pull on those little teeth and it'll bring out that corner. Really nice. It's a lovely little finish. Just squeeze that down. Press these down, little finger press, just to get them nice and smooth. And it should match the other side quite well because I put my zipper foot in the same position when I was stitching it. So now We can just freehand stitch this, but to make sure everything sits in here and really nice, because I'm not trimming any of that. Like, I didn't trim anything on this end, and it's all sitting in there nice and neat. We'll do a little bit of tape. If you're going to do bag making, you definitely need double-sided tape. It's your best friend. So I can put a little bit underneath here, because we want that little edge under there to tuck in. So I can put a little bit under here. It doesn't have to come all the way down, but it doesn't hurt. And when I fold this back, I'm just pulling that in a little bit. So you can see then this little edge here is pulled in that little bit. So it's just tucked in there nicely. That'll stay there. And then I can do the same on this edge. Only need a little piece. Pull this edge off. Because I've already got this piece down here, this end here will adhere to that bit there. So now I just want to make sure this end here is tucked in, so I'll just pull that down just a smidgen. So that raw edge is secured in there nice. Nothing to trim, nothing to do. So that's sitting in there pretty good. And then I can fold this over now. Line up these raw edges. Give that a squeeze together. If this is a little bit bulky for your machine, like it's not that thick, but if it is a little bit bulky for your machine, you can just get some tools and give that a little press. I didn't do it on this side, and by the time it's stitched, that's what it looks like. But I'll just show you what I've got. These little tools. It's a little flat edge in there. You can use pliers. I've used all sorts of things. You can just give that a little press just to remove some of that bulk. Make sure you don't press over your teeth of the zipper. Just give that a little press and that'll remove some of that bulk. Just another way to do that. So we can add a little bit of tape here. We don't want to make sure nothing moves on us. Just run it along that edge, or just use your clips, or just use your fingers. Some vinyls and that do have a tendency to stretch, so sometimes adding a little bit of tape helps eliminate that. Just pull that up in there, tear that off. And there, if I can't get that tape up, I'll just fold that back a bit, get a little crease. It usually helps. I just get these little raw edges together. Not this way, make sure they're all straight. That looks good. You can do like little section marks if you want to make sure nothing shifts in that, but if you just come to the middle now, pull this edge down, pull that edge down, line up those edges and just work your way along. Sort of try to eliminate like any distortion. Now if I just go along there, lining up those edges, everything should sit quite nicely. And here, come along, get your little edges lined up. Doesn't have to be lined up perfect, but it does give it a nice finish. I like things to be nice and neat on the inside as well as the outside. And just give that a little press. Finger press. Now we can top stitch. So I can manipulate this as I'm going along as well. See that there, I didn't quite have that touched, secured in. Just pull that apart. Make sure these edges are lined up. And just double check. Looks pretty good. Because they now should come over and sit quite nice. Okay, Now to start with, I'm going to start from down this edge down here, top stitch along here, because that's like basting that together, come up, and I'm going to come along and stitch inside of these teeth, and then I'll come along and top stitch along here. So get these little clips out of the way. Get everything out of the way. And off we go. Starting along this edge here too is a good opportunity just to make sure your threads and everything's all good. Okay. Can do a little locking stitch there. I'm using a stitch length of 4 on this particular bucket. Check the stitches are looking good, everything's looking good. Now we're coming up to this little edge here. Now, because I want to make sure, try and get it lined up so that my stitches are going to be sort of inside these teeth. So I might just see where that needle is now. It's probably too far away. I'll hand crank over until I think it's pretty good. I think there's pretty good. I think we should be right with that. If your corner stitch there's not perfect on this corner, this is inside a seam allowance when we're finished, so don't worry too much about that one. I think we're good, because there's my teeth, they're sitting in sort of this section, and my top stitching should line up pretty good. Now I want to make sure I'll hand crank to this corner, because if I had have just gone with where the stitches were going to go, my top stitching would have been too close to this edge. That down, get that thread so it should be locked in. If I do, if my thread doesn't sit nice on that corner, I have got a little tip I can share with you to fix that. And you won't even notice it, or hardly anyway. So here goes. There's another tip I can share with you on that corner there before we had have moved, is we could have just put our stitch length back to 0 on one stitch. Stitch length of 0 means nothing would have moved, and I would have just been able to do another stitch and start it again, and I wouldn't risk having that corner stitch there not right. Now looking here, I know already now that my top stitching is further apart than this one. So I've got 2 decisions I need to make. Do I go back and try and get it right, or do I just keep going? And in this instance, I think I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to pull that, just to pull that thread there back. Yeah, I think I'll just keep going. Oh, that didn't sound too good. Just going to check. If something had have gone wrong, I could have just stopped and fixed that. But it's looking good. I think it's just because I pulled that thread back. Just focusing here now on my top stitching. So I just want everything nice and even with this side. Now, if something doesn't look right when I'm come to stitch this, I can still have the opportunity to adjust here a bit as well. But everything's looking good. Now I'm coming up to that was that quite thick bit. So if I think at this stage, oh, it could be a little bit thick, you still can come back in. Like I'll just show you, like you can come back in And give this another little squeeze before you keep going. Give him a little squeeze like that. So you can do that. And I'll just sort of bring it down a little bit. Helps to eliminate jump stitches and that there. Now I'm just going to make sure, turn here, am I looking pretty good? Probably could have brought my stitches down a little bit further, but it would have been like the tiniest little stitch. I still could go back. I could actually just shorten my stitch length so that I can get a little bit closer to that edge, which I might do. Why not? So I'm going to take this stitch length down to I'll do a 1, and I'm going to hand crank it just to see what happens. These are the things I do sometimes. I can't help myself. Let's just have a look. Will we risk it? It's looking pretty nice there, from what I can tell anyway. Bring this needle back up. Hopefully, that looks good. I like that placement. And off we go. See if we get a nice corner, hey? Might not. I forgot to turn the stitch length back up. All good. I probably should do it now, even though you're not going to see these stitches. But if you do adjust your stitch length, there's a lesson for you. Make sure you take it back to where it should be. There we go. Oh, I'm pretty happy with that. I like that. All I've got to do now is put my zipper tab on the end. Trim these little threads so they don't get somehow caught up in a seam later on and get seamed. Now let's have a look. Let's do a close study. So there's our zipper placket finished. There's our beginning. I'll just hold that zipper back. So this is where we'd fold it over, right at those edges there. You can see it looks pretty good. This was the first one that I'd done, and this is the second one, is that? Yeah, I can tell way up here. Yeah, so that's the second one, and that was the first one. Now you can see here, by squeezing that as well here, makes a difference. Or did I squeeze? Oh, I can't think now if I've squeezed that end or not. Now here's this other end. Now if we look first and focus on, did we get these lined up? And yes, we did. We got them lined up really well. So that looks really good. Now this is the end here that I did squeeze, because that was that one there, where I turned that stitch down to a stitch length of 1, and then I forgot to turn it back. Is it really noticeable? Someone would have to have a really good close look. I don't think it's the be all and end all of doing of the finished product. If someone had studied that, but if you put this inside a bag, oh well, it is going inside a bag. Open this up. These I used that little pen mark there. I'll just hover my iron over and that'll remove those because that goes away with heat. There it is. Both sides are beautiful. There's the wrong side. I'll zip that back up. Zip right up nice and close to that edge. That's it there. All done. Beautiful. There's the right side. I think it looks pretty nice. I'm happy with that. Pretty happy to put this inside a bag. Wait till you see the bag. This is going in. Ooh, it's gorgeous. Okay, that's all from me for now. I just thought I'd share that as I was going along. Hope you found something very helpful, and I'll catch you later. Bye.